Okay, so parathyroid gland. It's located on the back of thyroid. Usually there are 4 of them. Okay, they're really small. The main cells that constitute parathyroid glands are, parathyroid gland is the chief cells, okay, which produce parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone is a water-soluble hormone, okay. Basically, if you if you ask yourself, what are water-soluble hormones, what are lipid-soluble? I usually tell students that you need to memorize just one category. Look at this way. Your gonadal hormones, your adrenal hormones, and your thyroid hormones are lipid-soluble. Everything else is water. Am I clear? So water-soluble hormone, there are other cells called oxyphil cells in parathyroid gland. We have no idea what they do. No, not a clue. Okay? So what is the role of parathyroid hormone? You probably know that already. Regulate calcium levels. So the signaling will look like this. You have lower calcium in the blood, of course. That results in the release of parathyroid hormone. And parathyroid hormone works through 3 pathways. So I usually compare it to money. So imagine, and I think analogies kind of make it better in terms of retaining the, understanding the information. Imagine that you are running low on money. What are 3 ways to get more money into your wallet? Okay. Earn more, take it out of savings, and
invest.
Really, Say again?
I said invest. I don't know.
No. Come on. We're not good at investing. So take it out of savings, earn more, or the way that nobody likes, spend less. Right? So, what are those ways? If you want to earn more, well, no. Let's start with savings, actually. Increased osteoclast activity. And bone resorption. Does that make sense? So you start taking it out from your savings, from your bones. Good? Now, you can also spend less. You decrease the excretion of calcium in kidneys. That make sense? So you pee calcium out. Does that make sense? And actually, this is something interesting, just FYI. I try to make this clinically relevant and life relevant. How many times your moms or dads told you you need to drink a lot of milk to, get a lot of calcium? If you get triple dose of daily calcium, all the excess you will pee it out. That's it. You're not gonna make your bones any stronger. You're not gonna become like Iron Man or something, okay? Iron Woman. Does that make sense? So, you constantly excrete calcium through kidneys, but PTH can decrease that excretion, basically increase reabsorption of calcium, keep it in the blood, and that will increase blood calcium levels. And the route number 3 is to activate vitamin D. Okay? Does that make sense? Nobody's walking. All right. Now, this pathway, so this is going to be your increased earnings. Okay? So this is what you do. Increased activation of vitamin D. It happens in kidneys. Results in the increased calcium absorption in the gut. Does that make sense? So to kind of wrap it up, what you have here, when your calcium in the blood is low, that results in the release of PTH, which will break down your bones, which will decrease your excretion of calcium with urine, basically keep it in, and it will increase of calcium absorption from your diet. But that last step is indirect. So PTH activates vitamin D, and vitamin D makes increased absorption happen. Does that make sense? So that brings us to one little detail here. Check this out. Vitamin D is produced in the skin. Does that make sense? It is produced in the skin as the result of exposure to UV light, right? Then it is activated in kidneys. It gets a little bit complicated. Okay, so it gets activated in kidneys and acts on the gut. Does that make sense? Jill, you good? Yeah, go ahead.
Do all three of those things happen? Like,
Yeah.
Always if there's low calcium?
Yeah, all at the same time. All at the same time. But you have to appreciate that your largest depot of calcium is the skeleton. So basically, running high on calcium is very, very rare. It is really hard to overload your blood with calcium because you're going to pee it out. That makes sense? But hypocalcemia is more common. And therefore, people who have chronic hypocalcemia, you can get only so much from the diet. And obviously, if you have hypocalcemia, you're not eating it enough. So absorption from food doesn't really help. Am I clear? Excretion, you can reabsorb only so much. So the main source will always be bones. And this is why people who are hypocalcemic, they will, develop brittle bones and stuff. That makes sense to you? Okay. What I wanted to say. Yeah, calcium is extremely important. It is very, very tightly regulated. Now, in a very unlikely case of high calcium, very unlikely case, that results in the release of calcitonin from thyroid gland. Parafollicular cells produce it. Okay? We're good so far? And that will result in increased calcium absorption into the bones. Does that make sense to you? So one more time, this is more likely, this is less likely. Few points of confusion that students sometimes have. Let me line them out. Students confuse follicular cells in the thyroid with chief cells in parathyroid. Make sense? There's a confusion here. Happens sometimes. And also another sort of confusion when I ask which gland produces calcitonin. It is absolutely natural to think that both PTH and calcitonin are coming from parathyroid gland. They aren't. PTH comes from parathyroid. Calcitonin comes from thyroid gland. Am I clear? That's, kind of, you can bookmark possible confusion point. We good? Any questions? Awesome.